Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining. This is the first meeting, the kickoff meeting discussing the CI contribution framework. So maybe before we start, I just want to make sure we are all understand the goal of this meeting. I think first and foremost, I want to make sure everyone understand the problem that we want to solve, and then understand more or less what is the solution that we want to plan. Now, this is a large undertaking. It's a big feature. It's much bigger than just a feature. So the next thing for me would ask you, like, how do we start? How can we get going, and how can we do something and work in iteration and not like go into and develop a thing for like the next 6 months? Okay, in the next 6 months, we're going to have like the first iteration. I want to start doing something in some way, maybe internally within GitLab, or maybe find a partner or a customer that we can work with, and then get more feedback as quickly as we can. But like before we even start, and of course, feel free to ask questions in the middle, because this is a big subject and I'm sure that I don't have all the details. But I want to make sure like we all understand the problem. Where did this problem came from? I think the number one problem that we've seen as a part of our interviewing customers, there is a problem around discoverability of what is out there. Like every developer or every DevOps engineers that start writing a pipeline, the first thing that he or she are asking is, what is it that is available that I can use? And today, there is nothing. Like either they have something in their organization that they've built with time, or maybe they just like go into Google and start looking for something. We have our templates, but like most users are not really using, like they're using our template, but this is not the templating experience that they would like. And the problem is that like we are, like every organization is experiencing this problem. So we are like repeating this problem over and over again. Like first organization was able to solve this problem, now there is another one. And they are doing the exact same steps that the similar organization already done. So we want to be opinionated. We want to provide our user with some sort of a way to say, hey, this is the place where we need to go in order to find what is out there. And yes, we will need to rely on community and partners and so on and so forth, but we're not there yet, okay? I just want to make sure we understand the problem. The second thing is reusability. So this whole thing, the discoverability leads to usability. You know that there is something that you can use, and then you use it. Why do you want to use it? Because YAML is not a programming language. Nobody wants to write YAMLs. They say, hey, like if I have like an AWS and I need to deploy my application to AWS, there's got to be at least one person that have done that in the past. So if I could see what that person did and maybe take it and tweak it, maybe I'm off the hook and I don't need to reinvent the wheel over and over again. So this is another recurring problem that we are seeing. The developers want to reuse an existing YAML configuration, or at least look at existing YAML configuration and tweak them for their benefit. And to add on top of that, like, yes, we do have some sort of a templating way, and we do have a way that we said, yes, everyone can contribute, but in reality, everyone can't contribute, unfortunately, because the way the templates is architected today, templates are a part of our Rail code base, and every partner and every customer and every user that tried to contribute their templates hit so many challenges, and the pain that they had to go through until they were able to contribute that. And it doesn't end there, because what happens if you need to update this template now? Who is going to update it? Is it like GitLab needs to update it because it's a part of our code base? But we don't know anything about this template. So it's not even scalable. So like let's assume that like so many people were able to contribute, then there is a problem of maintainability. So there are like many problems, and the solution that we've seen in the market today is basically create some sort, we like to call it like a contribution framework. We want to avoid using the term marketplace because the idea here is that users will be able to share their knowledge without any cost associated. We don't want people to sell their offering through some sort of a platform that we'll build, because we are open source company basically, and we want to make sure we improve the life of developers. And this is definitely some tool that we believe will improve the life of developers. So the idea is to have some sort of a catalog that everyone can easily access into, search to different templates that are available, and reuse it in an easy way. The catalog needs to be documented, and we need to, and eventually we need to have like some sort of a stream way to allow users to contribute those templates easily, so they'll be able to share this across the world. If you've seen my videos walking through some of the competitors that there are today in the market, what I would envision is to have the front end that will be similar to GitHub Marketplace, which looks, in my opinion, one of the best marketplace in terms of the front end approach. But the backend, the process on how to contribute needs to be maybe a bit more similar to Circle CI. Circle CI by far is doing the best job in contributing a template. They were able to automate it in a really good way. So some sort of a hybrid, but I think I'm jumping ahead. Like this is like my vision, like in a year or 2 years, in 3 years, this is what I would like to achieve. But before that, we need to understand, okay, where should we start? Now, there are some few caveats that we need to really understand, and we need to make sure that the requirements are there from day one. We are building a public catalog that everyone can contribute, but we would like also to build a private catalog. So, which is like a different flavor of a public catalog, but think about it as an organization that want to have an internal catalog for their templates only. No one will be able to access those templates besides the people in the organization. Think about a dedicated catalog for GitLab, okay? This is not something that we are going to do today, but we should definitely keep this in the back of our mind when we work toward the public catalog, because the idea here is that it won't be a lot of work to move a public catalog to a private one. So once we'll have like the public one, we can quickly iterate once we get the requirement, and we can also have some sort of a private catalog. And I'm going to stop my monologue now, and I want to get your thoughts, questions, and comments now.
I'll start the ball rolling just by saying that I just merged, I just put Merge When Pipeline Succeeds for the second partner template. And it probably took about a month and a half to get it in. So just to kind of highlight the problem, that was for a single template, and it took a bunch of engineers and a bunch of people to review it. So I'm super excited for this and can't wait to look for it. But one thing that came to mind just now that I hadn't thought of until just now is we kind of talked a little bit before, or I talked a little bit before with someone else about how this will be kind of the first time where we kind of bubble up public contributions into the UI itself. Like we say everyone can contribute, but they're actually contributing code and backend things and a little bit templates and things like that. But we're not really putting things from contributors into the UI of GitLab. So that's just not bad. It's just something new to consider, because it might mean that we would need to have moderators, for example. What if someone puts a template in the catalog that's here's how to spin up 100 runners to do Bitcoin mining or something like that. Like we'll have to consider that in kind of the legal ramifications and things like that, just as part of the discussions along the way. I just thought that we should probably write that down somewhere.
Yeah, I agree. I think eventually we'll have like different types of like certification for a catalog, for a template. Like we'll have the GitLab certified template. So those are the templates that we already provide as a part of our code that are available in our repository. Then we'll have like the partner certified template that will be contributed by our partners to our channels. And then we'll have like the community. And I agree, we need to have the right, I know, if we need like legal, if we need like people to at least look at it for the first time before they are actually like giving the okay, like maybe it should be like some sort of a manual process at the end. But yes, definitely, definitely something that we need to think through as we do that. But I think this is a part of like the streamline process of contributing a template. I think before that we need to actually like build the actual framework and then start building the processes around it, and then say, okay, this process can be automated, and this process needs to have some sort of a manual verification. Is it through like engineers in GitLab, or maybe certified community expert or whatever? But I think this is something that needs to come on the process of contributing a template.
Are we gonna deprecate the include template option keyword?
I don't think so. I don't think we're going to deprecate anything anytime soon, especially not something that popular.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking like super far in advance, like 16.0 advance. I'm going mostly on like the proposal, you know, where we like slowly start doing this, and because I kind of like what Fabio had done, where it was like project, version, etc. But then I was like, I guess because I got pinged on a deprecation issue, I was like, oh man, deprecating this one. But you know, it might actually end up working out because it's like breaking change 16.0 a year from now.
I think that like our users eventually will, I mean, if we build it right, users will eventually move away from like the include template and just do like a regular include, because like there will be like added value to that, like, you know, the version control and the documentation that will need to be around it. Because like, you know, you're doing today include something, you have no clue what this something is doing unless you know exactly, you know, where to go, what to find, and everything. So I hope that like if we build this right, then users would actually won't need to deprecate. They'll actually, you know, move it. And when we will start, you know, maybe think about deprecation, we'll say, okay, not a lot of users are actually using it, and switching that from something else, it's quite easy to do. Yeah.
I think the main aspect of this initiative is how can we make templates discoverable? Because I think I also answered that to Marcel's question about, you know, legal. I think today, like a user, I could create like a snippet on GitLab and then tweet, say, okay, if you want to use, I create this great template, you can include from my project. And you can use this whatever magic it does, and that works. You know, if as long as the project you're targeting is public or you have access to, and then you can include it, and that runs. So if then I change it to do some malicious code or something, I think there's kind of some legal things that could already, you know, we might be covered today, since these are use cases that happen already today. What we would want to do instead is, can I discover what, you know, templates are there available? so rather than do this kind of manual process or Googling it and find what kind of include, path I have to add, I can simply look at the whatever the pipeline editor side panel where it tells you like, here are the things that are available you can use, and here's how you can use it. So you directly just take and use that. So I'm hoping we can, just by thinking this way, that there is a lot of functionality there already, like include from a project that already exists. We could build on top of that, and what we might need to focus more in terms of UX and or from that marketplace, building that marketplace perspective, is how can we make this template searchable, and so you can find and include and display the README on the side, so directly know how to use this. But apart from that, the manual process should already be, in place today. This is the way I'm thinking of this problem.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think like the essential part for discoverability are going to be, one, some kind of tagging mechanism, whatever that is. So right, user can say this is a Java config and this is like a 2WS, and we could even like have specific kind of tag, and you could say this is the language, this is the deployment environment, this is the framework or whatever, and then you have these, and that would help tremendously. And then you need to have some kind of voting system, right? Like you need people to be able to be like, this is right, and ideally on top of that, maybe even later, or maybe we don't want that, but even having like comments, people could go and say, I've used it, it worked, right? And like, thank you for this, or like, hey, this doesn't work for my config. And then like I have that kind of interaction as if it was a repo, right? Like you can chat, it's public, you can like ask the person who wrote it, and then it evolves over time. So I think that's going to be very important. And just to come back also on the compliance, I think it would be very hard to have some kind of stamp from GitLab, mostly because of version control. And so if you have a manual stamp, you would say up to this commit, someone from GitLab saw it, but then you need someone every time to go and look at the changes, right? Because if you have the stamp and then someone in the code becomes malicious, then it's even worse because the stamp is still there, but it changed. And so like that, so there would have to be a whole, like a bunch of people who constantly look at all the commits, which is not scalable for sure. And so I think if we have like official templates that are very like they're internally maintained, so like, like this is the core AWS deployment for this language, and like we own that, and people can branch it off and do what they want, but we support only our version, that's different. That we could stamp, but I don't think we could ever stamp community contribution unless we copy it and take it into our own templates. But otherwise, I would stay away from that.
I think we need to introduce a kind of paradigm shift there, where whenever we tell users to include templates, we should tell them what tag, for example, to use. I'll always lock that version. I never use like give me the latest version, because that could be also dangerous for us. Like let's say we have like, our GitLab maintained templates, and we want to introduce a change that, or maybe a breaking change, and so we could tag it. If we have a version 1.5, we can decide, okay, let's roll a version 2.0 because it's a breaking change. Anybody who's using the latest version is like it should be a bad practice, and that could break a lot of pipelines. And we should tell user, always lock your version, then maybe use your latest version and try a new pipeline to see, like the same way we do upgrades with packages and things like that. So I think this is like one of kind of best practice we should maybe tell users, or put in readmes and things like that.
Maybe we could even reverse completely and say by default, you have to specify a version. And if you want on the latest, then you have to specify, I want the latest at all time, right? Yeah. And so that way it's like, there's no like default of like, you're going to get the latest. It's like give a version or say you want the latest, you choose, but it's explicit. It's not implicit. And that would help, I think. Yeah.
As the initial, like among the early MVCs with an S, because there'll be lots of steps, would it make sense to just not have includes or anything like that at all? Just have like a way to bubble up templates in a way that people can at least find them first, and then they'll all be copy and paste to start with. And then we don't really have to worry about breaking changes or versioning or things like that. Just throwing the idea out there.
I think that like if we want to make sure users will actually, or not actually, but if we want like more users to adopt it in order to get more feedback, we should go with the most common usage, and the most common usage is to use it through the include. I mean, we already have include today, and this is like we're seeing much more users that are like including templates than just like copy pasting templates. Copy pasting is not something that our user really like, because when you do that, you're forced to use the basically the configuration that you configured, and if you want to tweak it, and if you want to, you won't be able to reuse it. Basically, you just need to copy paste it over and over again. And let's assume you use it in like, I don't know, 100 different pipelines, and you want to update it, then you need to go and update it to 100 different pipelines. What users will do is that they will take this one, they will take this snippet that will provide them, they will package it in a YAML, and then they will do the include already. So I know that there is also a little bit about the discussion here that we have like two types of YAML configuration. We have a type that is like a job that is doing like one thing, okay? Like, I don't know, doing a simple test or simple scan or deployment. But we also have a full-blown pipeline that has like build, test, and deploy. So there are like two types of YAML configuration that we've seen. And I think that also here we need to be very specific on which type we want to address first. Because I don't want to take both types of pipeline configuration as this is for a POC or for an MVC. And again, if you ask me which one we should use the smallest one. So the pipelines that are actually our users are including to do a specific task. Because pipeline that have like a full-blown, like a configuration that have like a full-blown pipeline for onboarding, we actually have it today. We have it today in the product even. When you start your UCI configuration, you'll get like several examples for like a skeleton template. When you click it, it will automatically copy paste to your pipeline today. But this is something that users, if they will do it, they'll do it only once, okay? And when they will realize how it works, they will stop using it and they will just doing the include. So it's like one time doing that versus many times they are doing includes. So I think we need to focus first on like the small package of YAML configuration that are meant to do like a single task. And then we can extend it to say, okay, you want to see some examples? So maybe we'll have like another tag or another search for some examples you can copy paste.
I think that we could probably do both at the same time. So I linked there like a comment from a different issue where I described we have two different types, like that I've noticed at least of, I call two types of UX. So one is the example, like you say, like it is like a skeleton of a pipeline. If you have Ruby app, here's the jobs you could run. Then it's up to you. We add a lot of comments. These are very comment-heavy templates where you can decide to remove some jobs or tweak it. If you're using Postgres or using MySQL, you might need to kind of do a lot of tweaking yourself. And this will be the one that you copy paste. There is no actual configuration there to link to. It's just like, here's how you can do this. And it will be for more like for tutorial purposes. And another one is the packaged configurations, I call it, but it's more like, here's what you can include. You don't need to know exactly the details of how it does something. You just need to know it does this thing, and that's it. And you can pass in some variables as a parameter, kind of to tweak the behavior a little bit, but you take it as a function, like a GitHub action. And I think depending on how we want to design this, the difference between the two is very minimal. We need to have always a README anyway. So you can tell the users, here's how you can do this thing. And the difference is like, you can either include this file and just copy paste the include part. And that is how you can reuse many templates. Or if it's the case of a skeleton pipeline, like a Ruby app or something like that, it would be, you just copy paste whatever is in the README. There is no YAML configuration in the template kind of repository. It's just the README. It's like a tutorial README. This is how you can do things. But if there is something you want to include to make it like reusable and abstract that away, then in the README we specify this is, you can use it by including this file. And then the file that we point to within the repository is where the full kind of configuration is. And this can be of the two types that you mentioned before, like could be like just the job, include just a single job, like the code quality does, or include, or even change the entire pipeline kind of behavior, like workflow rules, how we modify workflow rules. But we tell the user, if you want to do this thing, include this template. Or if you want to learn how to do this, here's like a skeleton of a possible, Rails app.
Yeah.
So this is always copy and paste, but it's more like you're just copying whatever is in the template versus what the template tells you to copy will kind of point to a file within the repository, like an include.
Yeah. Still, I think at least for a POC, let's focus on one type, and then if we say, okay, it's not a big stretch to extend it to both types, then we can do that. But I wanted to be, this is why I wanted to be very focused on what is it that we want to achieve in the first iteration. And this leads me to my next question is like, what should we do in order to start with the first iteration? Like, for instance, do we want to start doing some design work for how the final product should look like? Will it help drive some of the architectural discussion? Second, where can we start the architectural discussion? Because I feel that there is like, we need to flesh up more details about, what will be like the structure of this catalog. Where are we going to host all of those templates? What will be the content of each project or for each template, and more. So like the question for you is like, how can we do like the first step on that?
I may have, I have an opinion, not surprisingly. I think what could be interesting is if instead of focusing first on the public part and like everyone contributing, what if instead we did the opposite and we said, right now there are enterprises that cannot realistically reuse jobs. And I think that is a much more narrow use case that would benefit a lot. And so how I envision this is you're in the pipeline editor, and the company X decides that they have a couple of jobs that they want to allow a developer to reuse, right? So they're already in their own repo, they're in a folder or something, and they're all in there. And if you go into the UI, we make something discoverable literally like in the UI. They can name that job, and if you click on it, it just snippets the YAML inside their config. It just put it at the bottom. Then they can move it and do whatever they want. They can configure some part of it, but they've just removed the manual process of going and finding the job. Bonus points if we could make it so that they can't edit it, or that the linter catches if they change it and it's no longer valid. That's like a nicer way, right? They could have their own custom rules and be like, oh, you've changed this syntax, it doesn't work. But I think that first step of like, you're in the UI and you can click on the button and it pastes that job inside your config. Would that address part of the pain point of like reusing? Or would it be like just an include even? Like I'm including this job. I clicked on this button, it adds the right includes, and now that job isn't there and it works.
Probably using the includes is a better method. Private organization would like, because this way they can enforce specific standards on pipeline. So of course both approaches are valid, but based on at least the interviews that I've done with organization, this is what they'd like. They'd like to have like include, they like to have include even for the latest, and they are in charge of managing like and maintaining those templates.
But then that makes it then, I mean, that would, at least in terms of complexity, what would be really cool about this is that you're removing even variables. You're removing the need for a user to fill anything out, right? They're not customizing these templates. They're just including them. And so like, but that would become later.
Those, yeah, they have to customize. I mean, they have to do something like simply including template almost never work. You always want to customize those templates. This is where we need like the documentation. This is where documentation is super important, that you have a template and you say, okay, this template doing this kind of thing. In order for it to work, you need to populate those variables with your credential or whatever. You need to add this step. If you wanted to work with A, you need to add that step. If you wanted to work with B, you can override rules. You can override different things that you can do with templates, even with include templates, because it's almost will never work if you just include it as is.
Would it, and then follow-up question, then would it be possible and or desirable for, instead of like then getting an include and then having to like either, because I don't, maybe that's doable right now and I don't know, so maybe sorry if that exists, but like when you use an include, is there a way currently where you can say, I want this include and here I'm just passing variables. So like under includes like vars or something, and then you go, this is the commit branch, this is the name of the repo that I need, and this, because I'm thinking in terms of like abstraction. And I think the problem we're always going to face is if you have to copy it, then you can change it. And then the rules of what you can change cannot be enforced easily. But if it's like, it's a black box, you include this and you get the documentation. You're like, here's what I need. Here are the variables that I need you to give me. You give your variable in the list. And then that gets like, once the include runs, it gets those variables and then it generates the right YAML given these variables. So instead of putting the work on the person who includes, we put the work on the template maintainer. They can understand what might change given your config. And then if the changes are too big, then you need a different include, right? Like you need a different structure because then it's just not variable. It's like, it's different. It's like a different job or like specific. So that's my first like intuition on that.
Yeah, there is, some competitors that have the concept of parameters, input parameters. So when you include something, you say, okay, I want to use whatever. Here's the list of parameters that we take in. And in our case, maybe the first iteration would be you use the variables. The problem here is that the variables will be then applied to the pipeline. So it's kind of the replacement of the values happen after you include everything, after we merge everything, then we have the variables that actually expand. It will be better to transform into some kind of inputs where you say, here are the inputs, we do the replacement before we include the configuration. And it could be an iteration where eventually we look into, okay, well, is there like a way we could extend the syntax to also use parameters? And so these parameters will be expanded or treated like variables, could be treated like on any other things we could figure out. Yeah, I'm wondering whether this could be like, one of the next iterations.
Yeah, I think definitely there is room to improve in like the way we are doing include, and one idea could be maybe leveraging parent-child pipeline instead. But I think that what we've seen today is that our syntax today, with all the pros and cons that it has with variables and the inheritance and the precedence and those challenges, users are still using include. They use include massively. They use includes with variables. They are, as I mentioned, like organization are building some sort of a catalog by themselves. Okay, everyone is doing like crazy things, but they are able to overcome most of the problem that we have today. And it is good enough for us to take a step and say, okay, this is where we want the product to go into. Like, we want to create some sort of a, I don't want to repeat the single source of truth, but we need to have like one place where everyone can go and share their templates, because this is what is happening today already. And what we actually need, we need to have a place for all of our users to say, okay, well, this great work that you are doing today, now there is a home for this work. And while as you contribute to the work that you're doing, you will make the life of your colleagues in different organizations much easier. So like, yes, definitely we have rooms to work on maybe adding steps into stages and input variables and parameters and more. But I think for now, we need to focus on what we have today and how can we improve based on what we have today. And if we're saying, hey, it's not good enough, there are like some things that we must improve, then we can do that. But I think that it's good enough. And this is where I want the discussion today to lead us into, okay, this is what we have today. This is the problem. What should be the next step for us to solve this problem? There is, by the way, groups in GitLab that are willing to help us with that. So I spoke today with Remy from the infrastructure team. They're using, I think, 4 or 5 different templates in their pipeline configuration. And they can definitely, they can definitely help us build that. So we can maybe focus on those templates that they are including today in their pipeline and say, okay, now assuming that you have this, I don't know, this UI, you have this way to manage it, let's dogfood it, let's give them to try that internally within GitLab first as a POC, and then get their feedback before we are having any types of release. The second thing that I also want to maybe try is we do have a way to tap into our partners and channels. So maybe even before making it like a public catalog, we can maybe open the process to partners only. So we'll have like a catalog that only partners will be able to contribute, because with partners, we still have some control, because the minute we'll open it for community, it's like we won't be able to I'm hoping won't be able to handle that. Yeah. So what I was thinking, okay, let's dogfood it first with our engineers internally, and then like the first release, we can call it a beta release, we can call it whatever we want, it will be with partners only, and we ask partners to contribute those templates into our catalog, and see how the process works and how can we automate things and how can we make it smoother. And once we feel comfortable that this is where we need to open it up for everyone to contribute.
I'm getting a little bit more convinced on the idea that we could start with private catalog, kind of internal catalog first, and then the public. Even if we deal with partners, for example, I'm not sure whether they all will be willing to share their templates, like within a catalog that is shared across different partners. I'm wondering whether it's more like, okay, we implement an organization level catalog for partner A, partner B also have their own organization level. They don't share these templates, but these at least are shared across the entire organization. Once we are able to build do the extra mile where we actually do the public catalog, it's up to them to decide. The same way as GitHub Actions are done today. You can decide, I want this template to be, promoted to a public catalog versus my organization catalog, so then the partners can decide to share only what they want, rather than being forced to be, basically put all their templates into a single kind of catalog.
So just to alleviate this problem, again, I have no problem pivoting to public or private. I think like first of all, in the product organization, we agree that the public catalog should be like the first official release. So we can build like a private one first, but like the real catalog should be like a public one. In terms of like partners, partners would like to contribute their templates for everyone to use, because it's their interest that users will use their templates, because it means that they are using their product. So we have like many partners today that they have integration with their product, and they say, we want GitLab users to use our product. How can we do that? We'll create a template. We let everyone to use it. We create the best template in the world. Okay, we make it like super light with all the documentation, everything. It's our interest to make it accessible as much as we can, because by doing that, we'll make sure that those users that are using the template are using our product. So it's their interest. This is why I'm saying we have a really good connection with our partners to leverage that.
Yes, although like, okay, even if we go to the way like of opening the marketplace, I guess it's for partners to publish only, right? Only partners can publish, can write.
Publish,
But then who can read these templates?
Everyone.
If we allow everybody,
everyone
but if we allow everyone to read, then like as a first iteration, my concern is that what if we decide, oh, we took a wrong turn in the design, we need to actually make some small adjustments. Now we have maybe thousands of, 100,000 of users using these templates in the specific order, in the specific structure, like including a specific way. Maybe we realize, oh, there's like a UX issue here we wanted to fix. This is why it's like the reach is still very high, even though we only, publish a couple of the templates, but the reach might be very high because of the number of people that can read these pipelines. If we start with like an organization level, then the reach is only, we can work with some organizations that are willing to try this feature. We can even enable the feature flag only for that organization and say, you can only, see this and use this template. And if we realize that there is something we want to tweak just because we are like, we're still iterating, we don't have to, introduce huge breaking changes. We can work with the partner and say it might be like, we want to introduce like a breaking change. This is the way, we can, support you to move. But there are like customers that are willing to take breaking changes because it's like a feature that they're interested in. And maybe before that, we could even look if there is opportunity to dogfood that. So maybe we can talk to productivity group to see that they are like our pipeline authors to say, okay, are there any templates that we reuse across different products within GitLab and things, we could actually create a GitLab org catalog. And we can make any breaking changes as we want there, like, because we can iterate as fast as we can, even breaking things, because we know how to move, how to overcome breaking changes. It's like we are dogfooding this. So my suggestion would be to look if there are any opportunities to dogfood first as first layer of implementation, then work with some customers that are willing to collaborate with that, and then eventually maybe open to all organizations first and then publicly.
When you say dogfooding, do you mean our own current templates or start generating new additional templates, and those would be the initial ones? That, like, it seems to me that the simplest thing would be to just expose the templates that we already have, and then we can dogfood by, instead of manually doing everything with the templates that we know are already valid and useful because we're using them now. Let's expose them in the new catalog, the current ones, and then we don't have to worry too much about that. And then, like you said, we can dog food it and we can tweak them, and we can kind of test with our own internal templates and make sure that it works. And when it's ready and works for us, then we can tell contributors, here's what we've done. All you have to do is do the same thing. And can you start adding to the catalog in the same way that we've done? Like you said, if we've had readmes and we've had manifest files, like you said, with tags and things like that, it'll set them up. It'll help us find the problems with the system more so than with the templates. And then it'll set them up for success once it's ready, because they'll be able to see, oh, we just need to do what GitLab has already done.
Yeah, so I think whether we will introduce like a public or private, I think we are agree that we need to dog food it first. I mean, this is also one of our principal core here in GitLab, especially when we are building something new as a catalog, dog fooding it first. So I had a conversation today, as I told you this morning, with Remy from the team, and he pointed me to like a handful of templates that they are using, like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 5 templates. They have one more for Terraform that they are using in a different YAML, and they are willing to try it out. They probably won't be like like our core users because they are in GitLab, because they know how templates work, because they maintain it, but still they be able to provide us like a good feedback about like the user experience and more. So I think that maybe if we can focus our work on those templates, and maybe there is one more, and see how we can build the experience around that for the team only, okay? And then take it from there. Then take the decision afterward if we want to go for a public one or a private one. What do you think?
You can do it on the Docs project too if you want something that's not so impactful, because if we cause trouble to the GitLab project pipeline, that would be a pretty big problem. But we were using 2 templates right now in the Docs project. Like we've got dependency scanning and SAS scanning. We're just using the straight templates for that. So there's probably multiple smaller projects that you could even start with. But yeah, 100% on board with dog fooding internally. Absolutely.
Yeah, even better. I mean, if we'll have you're a part of this team, so it's even easier to at least as a POC. This is something to get us started. So let's assume that we are okay. We are settled. We want to start something on the docs. Like, what is it that we can do? I don't know. Next week, next iteration. What is it that we all need in order to kickstart this project?
I think the first thing we could do, I'm assuming that we kind of are settling on the idea of having one template per project, where each template has its own README, its own manifest kind of metadata file. So what we will need to do is take these templates that are reused by productivity team and documentation as well. We convert into a project, using the project templates kind of that we had defined, like how the structure should be for each project, and convert them into a project with a README and how to use this, and see first of all that what they look like, and then eventually have, rather than include the templates, we do include project, whatever, GitLab, secret detection, and then we include that directly. Here's like one question is, we need to figure out where we want to put this project. I'm assuming we want to have like a CI templates group, whatever, GitLab.org/templates, and this will be the group where we're going to start creating all the projects from now on. And bear in mind that if we decide to rename this to rebrand, and we want to rename it, it might have breaking changes unless I don't know if we can do some redirections automatically. I'm not sure, but like, because these paths will be hard coded in everywhere where we use it. This is another case where I was saying we need to be careful who reads these templates, because we might introduce breaking changes by simply decide to move all our templates from one group to another one. So we want them to be.
Sorry, Fabian, go ahead.
No, I'm saying, like, we want to have them within GitLab org, or we want to have like another top level group specifically that is even more generic and be reused by, I don't know, GitLab, com, and any other customer, or we want that to be within GitLab org group. I'm not sure. These are kind of decisions we might need to make. And again, we might be willing to deal with breaking changes. Just like let's create a group, a subgroup of GitLab org, and put the projects in there. And whenever we come up with a better decision, we can move this project and deal with the breaking changes, or like when we move one project at a time and things like that. But like the smaller the subset of users that is using this, the easier it's for us to change our mind and move this around.
We all want to speak. So maybe an option also would be to, and maybe it's like, I don't know if it's shorter term, long term, whatever, but like at some point, we should aim that when people write their YAML, they don't have to hard code the group. So they just do like /template/ their templates. And we, on the API side, understand that this keyword, we populate the group where they live. So we have one place where that lives and we maintain that. And so if we move it, then we just change that repo, right? And then the syntax doesn't have to change. So I think that is going to be very important.
I was just wondering if it would be possible to have like a proof of concept of this, such that the project that we use isn't really important. Just have a random project really anywhere. It could be someone's personal namespace, but such that the code, people can start working on it basically and not really worry exactly about the final destination, so that designers and things like that can work in parallel, because it's going to take a long time, and then people can start working on it, and we could add it to the docs project, we could add it to our own test project with feature flags and things like that, and people could start testing it, and then finalize the location and things like that while we're working on it.
Yeah, I think a POC might be even like iteration 0.
Yeah. Okay, so we are at time. We can continue discussion on the issue, but I think that, like, moving forward, I really like the suggestion by Marcel for POC for docs project only, because as you mentioned, like, if we are breaking something, let's not break GitLab. I'm not saying we're going to break docs, but in terms of like
the POC could just be
more upstream
personal project, really, and then iteration 1 would actually be a real production project that has deployments and it has security scanning and things like that.
Okay, so how can we drive this POC? Like, do we like just select any template that we use today, a personal one?
Yeah, we can create a group, put these templates into the group, each template on each project, and eventually, if they are stable after the POC, we can directly move to a different project. It's just like an internal group, and create some projects that use these templates. We could work eventually. That is a good point that we just discovered here, that rather than using include project, where there is like a path name, project path, kind of hard-coded, we could use like maybe even we'll see if we can reuse the include template keyword, or maybe a different keyword that will automatically expand the path based on the name of the template. A GitHub action has like the template name must be unique, so that for this purpose. So we could even check all these things, like where the as you publish a template, the publishing might fail, say, okay, there's another template with the same name, Docker, for example, like, you can't publish another one. And that would be what we could, our alias to expand eventually into the full path of the project. So in a way, like you use include templates, but we transform into include project, for example. But as we deal with expanded the CI YAML. But this could be one of the things we might need to tackle early on. I would say, yeah, it's part of the POC.
Just wanted to say that what you did in the issue, is it an issue or an epic? In the epic, was really, really good, because you already had your Fabio group and your GitLab CI instance template / code quality. You had Ruby. It's like that's.
I already converted some of them. Yeah.
But the POC to me it's already started. It's already like all you have to do is take that. Like you've taken the first steps. Is like take what you've done there and just put it into a group under -org, and it's like we've already got the ball rolling in my mind with what you've done in that epic. It's great.
Okay, so we can start this as our basis for a POC, and then like we can create an issue for a POC based on the initial work that Fabio was doing, and see if we can quickly test it and see if we're not seeing anything funky there, and then maybe afterward we can move to some like real project. As I mentioned, Doc's project is. I really like this. Sorry, Marcel, for picking on you, but I really think that this is a good approach, especially since you're one of our teams, so it will be easier to get feedback in and out.
Yeah, I often see myself as the first user of a lot of features because I'll go and see, I wonder if I can use this in our actual pipeline. So it makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so I think like the next step is to. Yeah, okay, cool. So next step, I'm going to create an issue by Fabio based on and basically test the POC, and then we can take it from there. Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.